theme for 2024 is Home Economics 3.0, critical update. Just set some context. We all are familiar with when we're working on our computer, we're just about to jump into an important meeting or do something. We've got a deadline that's coming, and all of a sudden our computer tells us that it needs to do an update. And it's a critical update. It actually insists on interrupting us in the middle of what we're doing, forcing us to wait, ticking against the clock, desperate not to be late to our meeting. If we had done the update a bit sooner, we wouldn't have been interrupted. And so in some ways, we want to be talking about things that we know we're going to be needing to do as a field in order to get the update done soon enough that we aren't interrupted right in the middle of something important. The 3.0 in Home Economics 3.0 for the theme is a direct reference to the concept called Education 3.0. And this is the idea that education has gone through several iterations and that we're moving on to a third iteration for education. So here I have on the screen for you contrasted Education 1.0 and Education 2.0. 1.0, classroom, teacher, students reciting from the chalkboard, everybody using the same book, people taking a high stakes exam at the end, 100% of the students taking the same exam, lack of flexibility and adaptability, and lots of students get left behind. In many places, that whole educational model has been left behind, and we've shifted toward Education 2.0, which takes into consideration the needs of the particular students. It involves more technology, more customization, and is moving towards integrating technology into the curricula. And every different country, every different educational system is on a different place when it comes to this spectrum of Education 1.0 to Education 3.0. And there are plenty of critiques that the critical update, we could have a little tongue in cheek, right? There are plenty of critiques that could be had about this shift. However, this is a conversation that's happening in the larger education domain. So Education 3.0. Futuristic and is about transforming education. Here are some really interesting hallmarks when you ask, when you look around and see how different people define Education 3.0. Notice the term learner, so not student in particular, right, which is a nod to the lifelong learning. It's meant to be interdisciplinary, real-world based, so it's experiential. It has an aspect of the global and connectedness that we all experienced recently during the pandemic, and it's definitely technology-driven. Let's dig into these just a little bit more deeply. The learner-centered is a way to focus on even more personalization, self-directed learning designed to turn the learner into someone who can teach themselves, the student agency. Lifelong means that the suggestion is education should not just happen in a schoolhouse during a certain time in people's lives, but should be something that happens continuously, especially because those touting Education 3.0 are very concerned about rapid technological change and the need for everyone in society to be able to adapt. So continuous lifelong learning. Experiential means that we're going to focus on real world experiences and do projects, and it should be, kind of all encompassing. And it's global and connected. So people are collaborating and accessing global networks of information, such as the internet or shared resources from global organizations. And then, of course, lastly, it's technology driven. So it includes advanced technologies such as generative artificial intelligence, virtual and augmented reality, learning systems that adapt. So when students, for example, take an introductory quiz, the results of the quiz then adapt which materials the student is shown. And all of this technology is intended to be seamlessly integrated into the learning process. So this is the vision for Education 3.0. It's basically intended to be a paradigm shift. Education is adaptive and responsive, and all of these emergent technologies are brought to bear on making the education delivered wherever it's being delivered to whomever it's being delivered the best that it possibly can be. When I read about a lot of the aspects of Education 3.0, things like immersive learning, project-based, interdisciplinary, involving critical thinking skills, including technology, I believe that internationally, home economics has been doing Education 3.0 across the lifespan, outside of school buildings, right? And so in many cases, we probably are the go-to for learning about Education 3.0. So our theme for this year, Home Economics 3.0, is just at the very basic level, a chance for us to tout our Education 3.0 credentials, because we have them, I believe, in many cases. Besides the 3.0 in Education 3.0, we're going to hear a lot more. The IFHE meeting in August in Malaysia, for example, home economists from all over Asia met, and it was focused very specifically on workforce development for Industry 4.0. So let's talk briefly about what Industry 4.0 is, what it means. Industry 4.0 is, so Industry 1.0 would have been steam, right? Mills, right? Textiles really boomed in Industry 1.0, the Industrial Revolution. Industry 2.0 would have been electrification. It changed how people lived all over the world, required a huge investment of time on the part of home economists to help families cope with and understand the benefits of electrification within the home. Industry 3.0 would be the digital revolution. In some ways, we can look at this and say, well, isn't this Industry 4.0 kind of just Industry 3.0, but more? And yet people look back at punch card-based computers and kind of the basic computing and the way we used digital technology, and they say, no, the internet, generative AI, connected networks are doing something different. And this is a new way that industry is going to work. And Industry 4.0 and Education 3.0 obviously have a direct connection. Industry 4.0 needs workers with different skills and perspectives, and Education 3.0 is intended to help deliver those. So if we just think about how Industry 4.0 will be impacting the current effort for us to take education to that next level, many of the things continue to make perfect sense. This demand for new skills means that we're going to need people with the critical thinking. We're going to need to have that lifelong learning, right? That because some workers may find that their old way of doing things suddenly, oh, I'm supposed to ask ChatGPT how to do that, what's going on there, right? That brings up the ethical considerations that are very important as we are delving into uncharted territories with industry. But our interdisciplinary and real-world focus in Education 3.0 is definitely valuable for educating students for Industry 4.0, as well as the global and collaborative emphasis of Education 3.0. So just to kind of remind people, if Industry 4.0 is where the work world is going, and if we as educators, if one of the many responsibilities that we have are to help prepare people for their lifelong ability to negotiate a new world of work or new products or offerings, then we want to keep this Industry 4.0 in mind. Both Industry 4.0 and Education 3.0 are going to change how families interact with each other at home, right? And I'm just talking here about things that we already began to see at the beginning of the pandemic. There have always been families that have had some of these issues, but we've saw it spread out even more. So the networked, connected, kind of always on remote work meant that we have families struggling with work-life balance and potentially being able to set your schedule, being able to work when you need, or having, AI helped figure out the best schedule, you might improve that work-life balance. And there are many people who found that work works better for them now that they have these more advanced technological options at work. The continuous learning means that many of us can retool and reskill, and that we now have new points of conversation. Things are happening so fast that it's not just olds who don't know how things work, right? Everybody has to learn how things work. And this can be an opportunity for home to be a place for learning about all of these technologies. Gosh, right? We have all of these enhanced communication opportunities now that we didn't have when I was a kid, right? The party line rang and you answered it and then ran outside and hollered for someone to come and talk on the phone. And now, parents can have almost instant communication with their children wherever they are. And this, in many cases, can be a pro. Being able to relocate and have mobility means that people can follow work, can follow their dreams, can form communication communities, be near people that matter to them, family members, etc. And we're able to connect just like we're doing right now from the privacy of our home with people all around the world who have something interesting to say. So these are all great changes potentially. There are some cons as well. We've seen, right, the increased screen time. Economic shifts means, as always, there will be new winners and losers, and we can't always predict yet who those will be. And some families may be unprepared for how the changes from Industry 4.0 are going to impact them. Just read an article this morning about, is computer science the go-to certain college degree anymore if AI can write acceptable code? Families are going to have to change how they think about what kind of future they want for their children. Access disparities are a huge concern. I know that I have personally, the pandemic revealed this in really stark terms when we discovered, where I teach in South Texas, that many of our students do not have dependable access to the internet outside of our campus. And just, we're in a part of the country that has been difficult to provide dependable internet. And this means a lot of really cool stuff about Industry 4.0 and Education 3.0 are not going to be coming to homes in my neighborhood, because we simply do not have pipes big enough to get Education 3.0 to our homes. Value shifts, there's always concern with change about how value shifts will impact families and relationships. And then there are safety and ethical considerations related to, the technology and the use of technology within families. So these are all pretty standard things that we want to kind of keep in mind, right? Changes, as home economists, we think about how changes affect home. Now, as somebody who's very interested in household technology, you can imagine that I have been very excited about the smart home, right? Thinking about, right, if there's a dryer that knows when the electrical grid is under load, and the dryer can actually shut off the heating element and just tumble, which takes a lot less electricity. Turns out when the Department of Energy in the US did a study where they had dryers that were rigged to do this, most families never noticed that their dryers took longer to dry at certain times of day than others, because they were saving wear and tear on the grid. The Internet of Things means that devices can talk to each other, so that the home pod in one part of the house, other home robots are available, can detect the air quality and then make some adjustment in the furnace, right? We have all of these voice assistants now. I won't even name my voice assistant because he might answer me in the middle of a meeting, but some of us have gotten to enjoy being able to make verbal requests, which have created some comfort for many people, right, who are dealing with aging in place, and knowing that being able to make a verbal request will allow an elder in their family to have access to the internet in a way that was previously more difficult for them. The augmented and virtual reality potentially, right? I don't know, read a hologram on your kitchen counter, the things that are in your fridge, so you don't have to open the door to your fridge so that before you decide what it is you need to shop for. Who knows? I know it's great for shopping. A lot of people have been using it for that. Advanced security, knowing that you have created a web of cameras or some other kind of listening within your home. A lot of people are exploring that, let alone energy efficiency, which will help with adaptation for climate change, right? So having better sensors that help the home use less electricity in order to maintain comfort for the people within the home. Then there's things like the health monitoring, right? My watch will tell me what my blood oxygen is like. I'm getting over a little respiratory illness here, and it's nice to know that everything's fine. Remote work, we've all been enjoying, right? This could be even more integrated into our household technology going forward. And then, of course, robotics, right? Who knows when something will be able to fold all of our clothes. So the gist is Industry 4.0 is definitely going to be domain specific for many working home economists, whether they're teachers or not. And so part of Home Economics 3.0 could be thinking about how Industry 4.0 is going to be changing the home. I especially like this idea that the homes will become spaces for continuous learning, so that your students or learners or clients, whatever you want to call them, you may be interacting with them using technology right in their home. So it opens up whole avenues for people who are teaching about everyday living skills.